So after that, the previous season success wasn't there. Obviously with Gordon Strachan's last year. Why do you think that was? What was different from the season before?
I think we were close. I think the roles were completely reversed that year from the year before. Like I said, we won at Ibrox in the December or in the New Year's game. We go 7 points clear and we fluff it. You know, it's still to this day it irks me a little bit in terms of how we just didn't win that league that year. You know, how we let it slip. Even the second last game of the season, where we go to Easter Road. I think Rangers slipped up. I can't remember who they played, but we can only manage a 0-0 draw. If we win that, we go into exactly the same position as what we were the previous year, knowing that if we win against Hearts at home, we win the league. We couldn't do it, and we were waiting on, obviously, the result for Rangers to be for us in order for us to win the league, and it just didn't happen. But yeah, it was gutting. It was really gutting. I think the key moments in that season were probably in terms of my strike partners disappeared. Well, not in terms of their performances; they got injured.
Right.
We didn't have them on the pitch, and so a lot was left to myself to hold it up at that end. And I think looking back, and I think everyone will agree, and everyone said up until this point that we probably should have got another striker in at the time because Samaras was injured, and Jan was injured a lot as well, and even when Sammy come back, his form had dipped as well from his knee injury. He just wasn't the same Sammy at that period. He was still trying to get back. So I think in that moment, in that time as well, in the January window, which we did previous year, and I think it's important when you're playing at top level clubs sometimes when you need that little injection that you bring in someone, and I think it certainly would have done that at that point. But needless to say, it was all in our own hands still as well. Like I said, we were 7 points clear in January, so you're sort of thinking we're in a great position here to go and kick on and be all right for the rest of the season. But it was just disappointing in the end how it went, and obviously for Gordon to leave at the end of that year was quite sickening for me because he more or less become, you know, a big part of me in terms of, you know, my career, and because I was that successful, he become like a fatherly figure, and everything he more or less said, I believe, it was just like gospel, you know, because things were happening for me, you know. So it was quite gutting that he had to leave at that point as well. But you know, it was probably the right time for Gordon, you know.
Did you have any indication before that he was going to go? Because you were close, weren't you? Was there any wee signs that you thought?
No, not really. He kept it really close to his chest. I think it was kind of sort of, it was kind of going to happen the year before, I think. But obviously, with what had happened to Tommy had wanted, you know, his sort of last dying wishes was that Gordon doesn't leave, stays on.
Really,
does the right thing by the football club. Look, that's what I believed it to be, and Gordon went by those wishes and stayed for the extra year that he did, and obviously tried to make it 4 in a row, but we just couldn't do it, and it was hugely disappointing. Obviously, we had a great moment in that season. Obviously, beating Rangers in the League Cup final, that was another great feat. Obviously, my two mates scoring goals, and Aidan as well, you know, scoring the pen at the end. And that was a great moment because you beat your old firm rivals in a cup final at Hampden. That's won the treasure. It was a really great day, but obviously you want to win the title, and yeah, that was hugely disappointing.
So Gordon leaves and Tony Mowbray arrives. What were the main differences from him and Gordon?
Well, look, I think from my perspective, I mean, you're always concerned when a new manager comes in. You don't know what they're going to be like. There was rumours of this one, that one at that point. You weren't quite sure who it was going to be. And then obviously Tony got the job. He called me up because I was away on international duty at the time. Had a great conversation, and we were actually touring Australia in the pre-season. So he had said to me, right, I was on my honeymoon. You just meet us in Australia. We'll take it from there. We're only going to be training 3-4 days before, and then we're going to fly over anyway. If you're there already, don't bother. So great, good start. So we get over, we played in Australia, everything going great. The football was fantastic. Obviously when a new manager gets in, the impact's amazing. We played some really, really good stuff at times. Some really good stuff. The things that started to upset me personally, and collectively as a group was the kind of things that we were used to having within this, like I said, the bubble was starting to disappear. That was starting to break, and the trust that we had within that circle was starting to go. And when it comes from your leader as well, in terms of saying silly things to press are going to eat all over it. He didn't understand, and we were quite surprised in terms of he'd been manager of Hibernian before that. He'd played for the football club itself. He must have known what he was going to be up against in terms of within the media circles. So he had to be careful and choose his moments and choose his words right. But there was crazy things. There was like headlines saying, "I need 10 new players," you know. And when things like that come out, it's upsetting for the group. And it was crazy. And the things was, he didn't bring a confidence to majority of the group itself. Now, for certain individuals, he loved players with flair, and he loved that individual talents. So I can see why other individuals liked what his ideas and his consensus was. But in terms of, we lost that ethic within there to there of teamwork, hard work, the core of what brought us success. You know, you needed to keep those things, that cog ticking over. We lost that. We completely lost that. And there was a lot of people starting to get upset, and then the changing room was starting to become a bit huffy and just in certain moments. And we all wanted the same thing, but it was kind of like the manager was wanting every week to win in style. He wanted to win like Barcelona or Real Madrid. We should be battering this team. We went to Falkirk in a League Cup game and we were horrendous, absolutely horrendous. But players were short on confidence because they just didn't kind of know what he wanted, kind of like felt like he didn't really want you. He didn't feel like he liked it, especially me. I felt like, well, I'm not sure what you're wanting from me here. You know, he pulled me in his office early doors and said, "What do you think your strengths and weaknesses are?" And for me, when you come into...
He should be telling you that.
Well, that's what you kind of think, but also you're kind of sitting there going, is this catch-22? If I'm going to come along here and tell you exactly what I think, or come across all, you know, arrogant, I'm not really wanting to tell you what my strengths and weaknesses are. I'm hoping you're going to figure them out, or you've already seen what they are through the previous seasons I've been at this football club. I don't feel like I have to tell you what they are, you know? And then he was like, well, I'll tell you what I think. And then we went through and he told me the things that he felt. And at that time, I wasn't really feeling it. I was like, I'm not listening to you. I'm not having... And that's where, like I'm saying to you, as you get older, you realise certain things. And I had the pleasure of working with Tony twice, you know, so it's kind of weird, like full circle. But at that moment and that time, it just wasn't right. And the things that were going on were the reasons behind, you know, why we weren't successful. And I just remember, obviously, we'd signed Marco Faccini at the time for about $3.5 million. And obviously, as a new manager, you're always going to be looked upon on your signings and how successful they are. So I think it was kind of one of them where I was getting played, but I was getting played because I was still doing the business, scoring goals. But when the moment was going to arise,
you were bend there.
I was not going to play, and that was always on my mind. And there was a lot of games where I was getting to 60 minutes, and I was getting taken off, and I was like, it started to play with my mind in the first sort of 3-4 months of when he was the manager, where before the game I'm going, fuck me, I need to start well. I'm only getting 60 minutes today. And I know that the last 30 minutes of games at Celtic Park or wherever, they're going to fucking tire. Because we're bopping it everywhere. Like, they're the ones that are going to tire. And there's going to be chances come. And I'm coming off after 60. Someone else is coming on. And they're going to score the goals. So obviously, as a goal scorer, my mindset was all about goals, score goals. You have to score goals because that's what you're there to do. People are always going to ask questions if you're not scoring the goals. So your mindset was that. And I remember we did as we always did with Tony, we did video analysis, you know, during the week, but before we would go, we'd do set pieces and that on the match day, obviously at the Hilton again. So we would do that. He'd finish his team talk, we'd all get on a team bus. So everyone's gone to team bus. I've gone to the toilet, need to go for a quick break. So everyone else has disappeared onto the bus itself. you would go down the back fire exit to get down the stairs. But I'm at the top of the stairs, and basically Gaffer's down there with Marco Fortuné. And I can hear the conversation. And look, the conversation more or less went, bide your time, it will happen. Once he stops performing, then you'll get your chance. Wow. So it was, when you're young, you twist that into something even bigger than what it was, you know. Now as you're more matured as a person, as a player, and you see things and you're looking at things from other aspects, he's his new signing. He needs to get the best out. He needs to keep him on side, but it was all against me. This is more negativity towards me. You know, how dare you? More or less, that's what you're thinking. Your mindset is, he's not having me. So, in terms of that,
did you go and see him after that?
No, because I was playing. So I was just, I let my goals do the talking. I wasn't interested in arguing or fighting with him, because obviously he's the man anyway. He's the gaffer, you know. At Celtic Football Club, there's not one player that's bigger than the club itself. So you're easily replaced. So you kind of get on with it, but you want to feel valued at the same time. And just at times I didn't feel valued, or from the things I was doing the first 2 years, they were the things that brought me success. All of a sudden I was getting asked to do certain other aspects of the game, like we'd play with 2 wide strikers rather than strikers that would play together. And he liked to play, I think Aiden was playing through the middle, or Sean was playing through the middle. He liked them two to come through, and we'd play this more. We need to play it into the hole. We need to play in here. We need to play in here. Whereas all our success previous to that was built in getting it, fullbacks, strikers' feet, in, out, get it wide, or let's get it wide to our wide men, because that's where the quality is, and we're going to stretch them. We're going to go side to side. We've got 2 strikers, and teams can't deal with the ball in the box. They can't defend it. You know, up here in Scotland, you know, there is some good defenders, but the thing was they're going to fall asleep at some point. You're going to get your opportunity. As long as we keep making them defend, then it's going to come. Whereas when we start playing, trying to play through teams, as you know, teams get compact and make it difficult. And that was the thing. We're not playing, whether it being at West Brom, or we weren't playing in the Premier League, we weren't playing in the Championship, where it was more end-to-end open. You know, and this is where, even now to this day, you see players come here, you see managers come here. They can't cope with the fact of, you know, we look at even the likes of Joey Barton. You know, it's a different type of game that they're playing in, because they're dominating proceedings. You have to be savvy. You have to be really good on the ball. You have to find ways to break teams down. It's a completely different game of football than when you play, I play, or I play, you play. You know, you have to be clever and cute about how you're going to do it. And trying to play through bodies at times, you're just not going to be able to do it. It's too difficult. And we were a team based on so much success with that group of players. And you can see why Tony was wanting to try and get his new players in at that point, because those players were stuck in a sense of, we know what we're good at, we've been successful at it, you're coming here trying to tell us differently. Why are you doing this? And now you're telling us you want 10 new players. Well, go and fucking find them then. You know, because you're not going to find 10 players that are better than us.
So you were all quite strong characters. Would you voice
I'd
that?
Have to say that,
that to him?
No, because we always respect. Because obviously, under the likes of Gordon as well, and you have a job to do at Celtic. There's no time for feeling sorry for yourself or to go and moan about things from week to week. From you're playing Saturday, Tuesday. You need to win games. It's all about results. And that was the thing that we were trying to ingrain. We know we can't be good every week, but you can't go out to the cameras and say, "Oh, we were crap today," because you're giving ammunition to supporters who then are going to get doubly on the case of the team itself, and to you. You have to have a front. You have to protect yourself, and you have to protect the team and the club. If you go against that and you give the honesty and you give the fans what they want, they're going to throw it back in your face. And that's what was happening. Albeit we know we are rubbish, right? Okay, but we don't need to be open publicly that was the case. You come in and you tell us that's good enough for us, and we'll work even harder for you. But when you're going out and you're telling, and then the media are just riding it up as well, and they're going to ride it up even further, it made it 100 times worse. And then it just ended up in, you know, a bad situation, which is unfortunate. I think Aiden talked on pretty much that it wasn't cohesive at times as well, because you had Peter Grant, you had Mark Venus as well, and there was contradictive elements of what they wanted, and Peter cared so much for the football club, and he felt that people were letting them down, and there was information coming from there, information coming from there, And it was just, unfortunately, you know, because you don't want to see anyone do bad, but at that time it just didn't work. It just didn't work. And for whatever reason, once January came and I knew Gordon was interested again, with being the relationship that I had with Gordon, and like I said to you, that I believed more or less in everything he said anyway. So I was like, right. And I was more or less told, which again, you grow up and you have to think about things a little bit more. You were offered more or less that you could leave. Whether or not that was true, or there was sort of mind games getting played at the time, it worked. You know, it was more like, well, they want me out the door, so it's time to go. It's time to go. Might as well go. I want to go and play in the Premier League, and I think that we can do that with Middlesbrough under Gordon. But unfortunately, that never eventuated.
So was there a final conversation with Tony, or was it just...
Yeah, there was a final conversation. I'll tell you what the final conversation was.
Yeah,
you're never going to believe it, right? So everything was amicable. Like, we had our issues. It was fine. You know, we never fell out. It was like, you just have different beliefs at that point in time. And it was like, look, I wish you all the best. I'm from Middlesbrough. It's a great club you're going to. I hope you do well there. Obviously, it more or less like, don't really want you to go, but it's, you know, you can go. But I just felt like that was you just saying that to me because you have to say it. You're kind of sort of glad to get me out the door. This is a sense of relief for you that I'm sort of moving on. But the last thing he said was, and well, you never know. I might be your manager again at some point. Did you have a problem with that? And I was, like, no, I wouldn't have a problem with that. There's no problem at all. Thinking, right, that ain't ever going to fucking happen. But obviously, yeah, strange things happen, don't they?
So just how would you look back on your Celtic career as a whole?
Amazing. Loved every minute of it. Did it end too soon? I think probably it did. But I have no regrets. Everything happens for a reason. But I would have loved to have scored 100 goals for the club. That would have been an amazing achievement because not many have done it. You know, and obviously win more trophies. That would have been nice because I felt that I just left without the amount that I wanted. You know, but these things happen and you move on and obviously numbers get thrown at you as well in terms of financially and how you feel as what your value and what your worth is. And at that time, it didn't match up with me and the club as well. So those things all come into fruition as well as, you know, the other side of, you know, the football side of it, because you're now starting to come to a level when you're now starting to think about your future. And my wife was pregnant at the time, so I was ready to have our first baby. And I'm like, well, we need to start looking after ourselves a little bit here financially as well. We're not going to, this might be the best opportunity to earn the best you're ever going to earn. So, and that became that opportunity as well. So from that point of view, when that happens and then the club go, well, sorry, well, you're like, well, there's my value. That's what it's worth. And you know, amicably, the club got a great deal. They bought me for like 500-600 grand, I think it was. I think I left for 3.5. So, and ultimately we all did well out of the deal. So it was good for everyone at the end of the day. And but I loved it, and everyone was fantastic to me at the football club. And still to this day, to go back, you still see so many good people and good memories.